Hey guys, welcome to lesson 2. As you heard in the welcome video, what we're going to talk about here is how to figure out your power needs. And then we're going to go from this video and talk about electrical safety, how to meter your power, and how to find the right extension cord so that you're being safe with power, because that's like super duper important and a really big part of lighting. Why should we be concerned about power? That's probably the number one question you might have in your head when you're thinking about lighting. And the first one I can think of is you don't want to trip breakers. There's nothing worse than the power going out in the middle of your show. That's really bad. You also want to, with confidence, be able to bring your show into various different venues, whether that's different theaters, bars, clubs, churches, outdoor facilities, whatever. You want to be able to know at a given facility what you can bring in rig-wise. Can you bring your whole rig in? Can you bring half of it? Can you bring none of it? Can you bring some of it, etc.? And have the knowledge to be able to bring in the best show you can, even when you're on limited power. And then the third reason is that is really what I just went over with. Sorry about that. That when you have to cut down for power needs, what do you cut to create the best show possible? And when you're informed about how much power everything sucks, you'll then know what you can do when you're in a situation like that. So the first step to figuring out your power draw is amperage. Amperage is really the key takeaway here. It's going to be listed for every fixture you own, either near the power cord or in the manual near the back, most likely. And every fixture you buy is going to have an amperage rating. It's going to tell you, hey, this takes 2.1 amps, this takes 4 amps, this takes 10 amps. Whatever it says, that is how much power it's going to draw. And note that it's going to be listed by voltage. So there might be multiple amperages listed. It might say, at 120 volts, which is the US power system. It might say at 120 volts it takes 5 amps, but at 208 volts it only takes 2 amps. Because it's going to vary by power. So make sure you know what kind of power you've got in your locale. And then read the amperage requirement for that. Now, if the fixture says something like, usable on 100 to 240 volts, like a lot of LEDs are going to say that on the back, and then it's going to say 2 amps, then that number is the number to go by. You really can't mess with that. And check the manual and see if they have a table that lists the different voltages. But if not, just go with that number. So once you've figured out every fixture, you got to add them all up and then make it fit within your power. Now, in the United States here, which is where most of you are probably from, I know not all of you are, your wall power circuits are going to be 15 amps or 20 amps total. And there's no way to really know, to truly know, unless you look at the breaker box. If you don't have access to that, just assume you're limited to 15. And, of course, the 80% rule, as I've put here, it's pretty important. Never go above 80% of the circuit's maximum power rating. And that's just to protect you in case something goes haywire, something sucks more power than you thought, somebody plugs in something. It's just a really great way to make sure you're going to be good. So don't push stuff to the max, and you'll be great. So here's an example to make it more real, because I know I just flew through that and it might be confusing to you. But really, this is all the math we're going to have to do. We don't have to get into all kinds of equations and multiplication and division and stuff, because if we just consult the chart in the back of our manual, the manufacturer's already done that for us. So say we've got 4 high-end studio spot moving lights, and they take 7 amps each. Then we've got 10 36-watt LED par cans, pretty typical can, and they take half an amp each. Then we've got two Chauvet Nexus panels at 3.3 amps each. In total, we're going to have much more than 20 amps. You know, the studio spots are going to be 28 total, and then 5 amps for the pars, so that brings us to 33, and then another 6.6, which brings us to 39.6, just under 40 amps. So no matter what, that's 3 circuits for us. But this shows us why I wanted to brush on this again, why LEDs are so wonderful. A high-end studio spot, a little bit of an older moving light, but you still see them sometimes, has a 575 watt lamp, and it's rated at 7 amps total power with everything inside the light going. That's how much power it sucks. Now, a Chauvet Rogue R1 takes 2 amps, and it's about the same brightness as that old studio spot 575. And the R1 isn't even an LED, it's just a newer discharge lamp. If you used an LED fixture, it may be even less, or the fixture may be brighter. And so this is why it's really important to look at the power rating of stuff when you're buying it. Because if we had our 4 Rogues, that's 8 amps total, then our 5 amps of LEDs, and our 2 Nexus panels, we could split it out on 2 circuits, be more than good. You might only have 1 circuit, cut the Nexus panels because they're power suckers. And that's a really important thing to note, because they're an LED panel, but they're one of those new chip-on-board panels. They're called really cool, new-looking ones that you see everywhere. And they're really bright, but you got to watch the amperage again and make sure you don't get too much for the types of venues you usually hit. So it's really important to pay attention to this stuff and to make sure you're not bringing too much rig for the gig, to make sure you've got plenty of room to be able to plug all your stuff in. Because if you've gone through creating a killer show, programming it all that stuff, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to plug it in and run it. And so that's really important. But the next video, video 2 of this lesson, lesson 2, is also important, because we're going to go into what extension cords to buy in 2 separate, and then in another video, we're going to go into how to meter your power to make sure it's safe. And while it might be tempting to skip that one, sounds kind of boring, it might be. The fact is, you can burn up your gear, watch your gear blow up in a second and get burned out electrically and die if you tie it into bad power. If you plug into bad power, bad things will happen, and I want to protect you from that. So I'll see you there.